afternoon, and welcome to our concert. And isn't this a beautiful renovation of this site with all the comfy chairs and everything that First Baptist has done? We want to thank First Baptist. We hold all of our rehearsals here and majority of our concerts, and we store all of our equipment here, and we are very thankful that they are generous enough to do that for us. We want to thank several of our members for our posters and our programs. About 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the concert starts, these emails start flowing around, and all of a sudden we have beautiful posters and a put together program for you to look at. And I want to thank everybody who's responsible for that in the band. Thank you. We have members from 10 or 12 different communities here in the Hill Country. And we range from Austin to San Antonio and San Marcos to Blanco. We have members from their teens and 20s up to those of us who are a long way from our teens and 20s. But we're a very fun and close-knit group. If you have ever played a wind or percussion instrument in middle school, high school, or college, we encourage you to join us. It's a wonderful musical experience, but it's also a very nice social experience. We are a 501c3 organization, and we receive monetary support from local groups such as our Lions Club and the Civic Club, and from individual donations from friends such as you. We have baskets in the back for cash donations, and on the last page of your program, there is a form that you can mail in, or there's a QR code that will take you to our home pages. We are very excited that for the first time ever, our concert is live streamed. That's why I had to wait. I had to wait for the signal. This is a collaboration of First Baptist Church and some magicians, technical, in the band who have put this together for us. And it's a wonderful opportunity for our far-flung families and former members to actually hear our concerts. Thank you again for joining us. And I now present the Hill Country Community Band and our director, Dr. Manuel Arambla. We are going to begin our concert with the national anthem. So would you please stand if you're able.
Hello, welcome, good afternoon. to our first concert of the season. My name is Manuel Arambula, and this is I am starting my second season with the Hill Country Community Orchestra. So I'm going to be talking a little bit in between pieces. Maybe it's in some a little extended because I really want to give a good description of what our program is. While we were working on our 4th of July concert in England, they had the Jubilee celebration for Queen Elizabeth's 70th anniversary in the throne during the summer. And so when I was in college, of course, I had to study music from all nationalities and all kinds of genres. So I've always been fascinated by British music and British culture. I really just like what composers in England have done with their music. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about characteristics of English music. So it was the Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth's 70th year on the throne. So I thought it would be a great idea, if we did a program of just British composers. We would just feature British musicians, British composers. Since its inception, the first records of English music goes back really to the 1200s. And it didn't really start to get amplified until the 1500s. And then you had George Frederick Handel, of course, who did the Messiah, even though he was German, but he nationalized himself and he became an English composer. But some of the characteristics that we find a lot in English music is folk music. So English composers like to use folk music a lot. So in your description of the pieces, you're going to see a lot of the work folk music. And another characteristic that English composers like to use is also religious anthems. Of course, because the Church of England is very present in the culture of England, so they put that a lot into their music as well. So we're going to get started with our first composition, which is Sea Songs by Ray Vaughan Williams, and it features three folk tunes embedded into it. This was one of the earliest examples of British composers trying to write for the wind band medium. Of course, I never, or the band would have never have thought that the Queen would have passed a few weeks ago. We had already started our rehearsals when we had this program in place. So we changed the programming around a little bit, the order of the music. The pieces were the same, but it became really a tribute to Queen Elizabeth II. Now, whatever your beliefs or ideas or opinions on the British monarchy are, that is completely fine. But I think we can all agree that Queen Elizabeth personified dignity, class, and duty to her people from a very, very early age. So this concert will be towards that, and at the end we will celebrate the new King of England, King Charles III. But for now, let's start with Sea Songs by Ray Vaughan Williams. Thank you. All right. So going back to British history, and and the way it correlates to wind band music, or concert band music, or military band music. Um, we are playing two cornerstone works of the wind band repertoire. One of them is the next one we're about to play, which is Lincolnshire Posy, and another one is the first suite in E flat. So at the turn of the century, 1900s, the other century, 1900s, the instrumentation that you have on stage was not really set yet. Um, Different composers would write for the wind band, but the instrumentation was not set. Sometimes they would not include the saxophone, or they would not include a euphonium, or they would not include maybe the piccolo, or maybe some of the clarinets. And so it was not really, which I'll talk about later, the first suite in E flat, which really solidified the instrumentation of the concert band. And since then, composers decided that that would be the instrumentation, the orchestration that would be the standard instrumentation for the concert band. So this piece was written later than the first suite. This piece was commissioned in 1937 by the American Bandmasters Association. It was written by Percy Grainger, and I would encourage you to, if you have time, read about Percy Grainger. He was a very, very interesting figure, and he had some very, what we would consider maybe strange behaviors, which would not be very appropriate for the building. But yeah, I would actually encourage you, but he was a very talented man, by the way. He was a piano prodigy, and he wrote a lot of early compositions for the wind band medium. So musicologists credit him as one of the early pioneers that wrote for the wind band medium, and this is one of them. Lincolnshire Posy is considered to be his masterpiece. Posy means a bunch of flowers, right? The word posy means it's a bunch of flowers. And so in 1905 and 1906, Percy Grainger went around the countryside of Lincolnshire, England, and he would carry with him wax cylinders. And he would just find folk music, like I said. He would go up to a person and be like, "Can you sing something for me?" The singer would sing for him, and he would record them in these wax cylinders. Those wax cylinder recordings are now on YouTube. They're not very good quality, but it's the same music that is here. So he recorded these folk songs. He took it back with him. He added his touch, his harmonies, his instrumentation, his orchestration, and this became Lincolnshire Posy. Ever since it was premiered in 1937, it's been regarded as one of the most important pieces in the repertoire. Sadly enough, it was not premiered in its entirety. The band that performed it, which was a band in Milwaukee, considered it too difficult, and it is very difficult. It is a very difficult piece to put together. And so when I programmed this piece in the summer, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. I probably grew some white hair in the process in my temples, but these musicians, they stepped up to it. They had sectionals, they were helping each other, and they really bought into it. I will say, everybody, as a wind musician, we always remember when we first performed Lincolnshire Posy. For me, it was a summer of 2001 at the Texas State University Band Camp with Mr. John Stansberry. It is that important of a piece. It is so enjoyable, and I really hope you, if it's your first time hearing it, I really hope you enjoy it. What makes it also very difficult is there's just no structure really in time. It is supposed to sound like if somebody was singing it to you. So there's a lot of very alternating meters, and that just makes it very hard to sometimes put together. So maybe I've spoken too much. Thank you. I hope you like Lincolnshire Posy. Thank you. It's amazing. It's amazing how almost 100 years after it was written, it still sounds like a fresh band piece. Like it was just written within the last 10 years. I believe that's the characteristic of a great band piece. That the fact that it can just, live on and just being played. So, oh, sorry, I'm a little winded. So it's a great piece. Thank you all so much, musicians. All right, now we're gonna go to another march. This is a very popular march. If you've ever seen the old movie, The Bridge or A Bridge on the River Kwai, this was in it. This was written by Kenneth Alford. It's Colonel Bogey March. Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna move to a more serious composition. Edward Elgar was another very important British composer in the 20th century. And his Enigma variations are probably his most important, most performed work. He also wrote other music, such as concertos for cellos and things like that. But the Enigma Variations is the one piece that is attributed to him that is very highly regarded. Now, it's called the Enigma Variations because just like any variations, it starts with a theme, and then he has several movements based on that theme. So we're just going to be doing one variation out of that over a large work, and it's titled Nimrod. Now, it is titled Enigma Variations because we don't really know what he meant by that. He gives a name to every movement, but we don't know who he's referring to or who he's talking about. Now, if you know your Bible, you know that Nimrod was a very important hunter, very famous hunter in the biblical stories. But this movement doesn't depict that. It doesn't depict bravery or courage or a war. It's a very somber piece. And if you're familiar with it, you know that this piece is performed very much in England, usually in times of deaths, funerals. Mind you, I programmed this not knowing that the Queen was going to pass. So this piece is a very beautiful melody. And on the day of the Queen's passing, the Philadelphia Orchestra was actually on tour in London, and they were supposed to play their program, and they played the Star Spangled Banner, and they canceled the rest of their program because during that time England went into mourning. But they played one piece after the Star Spangled Banner, and it was the Nimrod from the Enigma Variations. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to our last big piece of today. If a survey or a poll had to be done by musicologists amongst favorites, or maybe importance too, but if a poll was taken of all wind band musicians and band directors of what their favorite band piece of all time it would be, I will be willing to bet that this is it. I will be willing to bet that it is the first suite in E flat. Every band person enjoys it. We love playing it. It is such a masterpiece. And maybe it will be a tie between this one and actually the other one, the Lincolnshire Posey. But this is another very important piece. As I was saying, this is the composition that standardized the wind band instrumentation. And really, you would think it's this big, majestic piece that, well, it is majestic, but complex, and it really isn't. It's actually a very simple piece based on a three-note motif, just a three-note motif. It's kind of like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You know, he composed that symphony based on only four notes, ta, 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 right? And that he built his whole symphony of that. Same thing with this one. It is built on a three-note motif. So I want to play for you three excerpts from the first suite in E flat on how the composer uses those three motifs. That way, when you're listening to you can be like, oh, there's a motif. Oh, there's a motif, you know. So here's the first excerpt from the first movement. Right away, Gustav Holst introduces the motif of three notes in the low brass. Right? It's only those three notes, E flat, F, C, and that's it. Right? Now we go to the second movement. He introduces it in the third bar. Second movement. Right? Piccolo play. You heard that three motif, da-da-da, right, there it is. In the third movement, he uses the same after the key change, where the clarinets and the winds presented after a trumpet introduction. Now, the way composers use motif, they don't always present it the same way. You heard in the first movement, body slow. Second movement was ta-ti-ta. Here's the presentation in the third movement. There's a motif, da-dee-da. There's a third note motif. You're gonna be hearing this motif a lot. And you would think it would sound old and repetitive, like a lot of pop music today. You know, it's the same 2-3 chord, but it doesn't. It stays fresh. That is the great trait of a great composer, don't you think? The way that you can just have a three-note motif, he can keep it going for 10 minutes and it just sounds fresh and exciting. And to me, this is, if I would have to rank it as well, this will be my favorite band piece. I love this piece. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. All right, so that's the first suite in E flat. He actually wrote another one. It is the second suite in F. So hopefully at some point we will program it. All right, so we reached the end of our program. Before we play the last piece, I would just like to invite you to our next concert. I can't recall at the top of my head what day it is, but it is in November. All right, it's going to be a little bit different. When November 19th. Thank you, November 19th. They always help me to remember things. So, November 19th. It's going to be a little bit different. I think it's titled God, Death, and the Profane. God, Death, and the Profane, maybe something like that. Okay, so it is based on songs and poems. When I was a doctoral student, I had to take a philosophy class. What does philosophy have to do with music? So I had to take a philosophy class, but it was really one of the most useful classes. It was called the aesthetics of art. How as humans we perceive art, how art is different for everybody else. So our next concert is more of an artistic, it has a more artsy feel to it. It's not gonna be that traditional boom, band concert, with a big bass. It's not gonna be nothing like that, all right? So I would highly encourage you to come. We're gonna be performing excerpts from Carmina Burana. We're gonna be playing, I already forgot. Magnum Mysterium, which is a depiction of the birth of Jesus. And we will also be playing Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, which if you're familiar with the poem, it's about an affirmation of life and how beautiful life truly is. It is for me. All right. So we will now conclude with a farewell to Queen Elizabeth, but now we will pass on the torch to King Charles III. We will conclude with God Save the King. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoy this program. Thank you.